Well, hi guys. Welcome to the welcome to the live chat. I hope we have someone. Okay, yeah. First of all, commiserations from my side. The very first, the Imola Grand Prix was supposed to be a fun race. To be honest, if it actually went ahead, because the rain and the mixed weather, it could have made things fun. Yeah, before we start, first of all, if there is someone who is oops, sorry, if there is someone who is currently available who's watching, hi. If there is someone that joins in between, just drop a message in the chat. Just let me know. Now, the main reason why I'm actually trying to do something different here is because I feel, look, it's always easier to make videos and there are multiple edits and things like that. A live chat usually helps to get things out in a better way and probably a bit more direct. So yeah, that's why I just felt maybe trying something different. And well, since there is no race this weekend, so this is probably the best time to go ahead and do something like this. Now I think, well, there are four topics that I really wanted to talk about. There will be, well, as it's mentioned in the description as well, they'll range from, well, first of all, the Imola GP being cancelled. Okay, now the first thing it's even mentioned in the chats as well. It's not cancelled. It just won't proceed this weekend. Now, yeah, there is this suggestion that it won't just proceed this weekend, but I think we've seen. I think even the second message in the chat also, conveys this thing. It's highly likely that we will see an extension of another year. Now, the financial burden that will be there, I think it will be entirely taken up by the Italian government, as it appears for now, because the whole thing ultimately why it materialized because the Italian transport minister, I think it was, who appealed that we should not have anyone. Ultimately, we should not be having a race. We should rather be focusing on reparations, because that is the most important part, at least at this moment. Now, honestly, I'm a bit surprised that there are actually that F1 actually took a step like this, because the financial implications are going to be huge. But for once, well, sanity prevailed, and they did something that was, I feel, a very sensible choice at the end of the day. In my Honestly, if I had to make a prediction, my prediction was going to be we were going to see a repeat of what happened at Spa in 2021, where we'll be waiting until the last moment to make a decision, and then it will be too late. Fortunately, nothing like this has happened this time around, and we are going to. Well, we are okay. I agree. Oh, hi, Arif. How are you? Mugello is just a couple of hours. I agree, it is a couple of hours, but the thing is, it's not only moving the F1 circus to Mugello. The problem is the fans and the whole. The thing is, it's a huge operation. You cannot move it with just, I think, a couple of days left. So it would have been a bit risky. Didn't really make sense. Plus, yeah, there are things. Mugello is arguably a very, when it comes to, the thing is, when you are going to a particular race weekend, there are certain preparations that ultimately a team needs to do. For instance, if they're going to Imola, now that is a very different kind of track as compared to Mugello. So again, things like that, the kind of front wings that will be brought by teams, they will differ from track to track. But yes, maybe Mugello could have been a choice, but again, they've not really gone ahead with it. Again, honestly, I'm a bit surprised. I didn't think we actually the race will be cancelled, but I do feel it is actually a sign of, well, it is a sign of how severe things are in Imola. And well, I wish them the best of luck, because you should not be racing in these kind of situations. The kind of pictures and videos that are coming out from there, I think it's fair to say that it doesn't make any sense for them to go ahead and race. Now, in my view, that is basically the thing that I actually have to say about Imola. Nothing happened. I was a bit bummed that we didn't really see the upgrades. And yes, Arif mentions that, do you think Merck will bring their upgrades in Monaco or Barcelona? Now I feel they are going to bring their upgrades in Barcelona. Ferrari has already delayed. They were supposed to bring something in Imola, but they have delayed the whole thing till Barcelona, and it makes sense because Mugello is very, it's a very specific kind of track. In that particular track, what we need is, it's a high downforce track, and to be honest, yeah, and to be honest, the thing that we need to keep in mind in Monaco is the kind of car that these teams have. You are not, even if they are going to load these cars with upgrades, you're not really going to learn anything in Monaco is all about learning the track, and that is what we're going to see. FP1, FP2, FP3, all three of them will see cars basically doing laps after laps. And the most important thing is ultimately getting a feel of the track. And yeah, just an early prediction for Monaco, by the way. If he does not crash, I think Charles Leclerc will have a good one, because out of traction zones, Ferrari seems to be doing a good job. So yes, fingers crossed. I hope he does a good job. But yeah, he has become a bit unreliable, at least in the last, in both Melbourne and even in Miami. So yes, let's hope things work out for him, because I mean, he's a very talented driver. Now this is where I kind of close the Imola GP chapter. There's not much to talk about it. If there's someone who has any questions, Arif, if you have any question, you can ask. Any chance of Alonso winning? I think there is a chance of him winning in Monaco, but the the thing is, when it comes to Alonso, there is one area where he's not as good as probably the other elite drivers, and that is qualifying. I think that is going to hurt him a bit here, because when it comes to nailing that final qualifying lap, I mean, if I have to make a choice, it will be either Leclerc, Max, George, Norris. These are the kind of drivers that I would, put my money on to get pole position. And Monaco is a kind of track where pole position and track position in general is, it's the key. If you're securing pole position and if you are on top, more often than not, you're going to win. So yeah, if you ask me, I think when it comes to Monaco, Alonso can win, because his racecraft is, it's stunning. It's arguably one of the best. But the problem is the qualifying pace. If he's not able to place his car higher up the order, then I mean, you really can't do much in Monaco. Plus, these cars have become such, these cars are so huge right now. You really can't overtake. Even last season we saw that a lot. So yeah, honestly, I'm more excited about the Monaco GP qualifying than the race, because for me that has been the main spectacle at Monaco the last couple of years. Yeah, Arif, I agree. The one lap pace of Charles, it is quite good. I'm quite impressive, to be honest. Arguably, I mean, if I have to rate, arguably the best qualifier right now, the places where he is able to put the car. By the way, just an update. I recorded a podcast yesterday with one of the more famous YouTubers. The podcast will be out mostly by Saturday. It will be divided into two parts. The part one should be out by Saturday evening, similar to this time. So yes, I mean, even with him, I had this chat, and he, in his view, Leclerc reminds him of Gilles Villeneuve, and I think I agree with him. Spectacular one lap pace. I hope he gets that kind of maturity where he's able to, just like Max matured after what happened with him in Monaco 2018. I hope Leclerc does that as well, because he's such a supreme talent, and he needs some maturing to do. I think he should have done it by now, but still I hope he does it, because once he nails everything together, really it's hard to see many drivers that can actually match him. Now that is for the Imola GP. I think the second thing that I actually wanted to talk about was something that I saw on Twitter today. It is regarding, I think it was a thread from, I believe, the Mercedes Lewis Hamilton fans, that they'd come up with an entire list of basically the innovations that Mercedes had done during the turbo hybrid era from 2014 to 2021, and how FIA and F1 had outlawed those innovations It was basically a cry for, it was basically an appeal. I should not call it cry. Cry is a bad word. It was basically an appeal for making, it was basically an appeal to ultimately stop Red Bull from dominating Formula 1. Now, let's first, Arif, yes, I'll get back to your question. Should Monaco stay in the calendar? I'll get back to it. There's something I actually wanted to show you guys. I think this thread actually got quite a lot of traction, so I thought maybe it's worth taking a look at it. Okay, so I think you guys might be able to see this. Yeah, so in this particular thread, some arguably Lewis Hamilton, I think it was a Lewis Hamilton or Mercedes fan that made this entire list, and what they were trying to show was how these Mercedes innovations were actually outlawed by FIA just to rein Mercedes in. Now, to be honest, whatever I have seen, no, okay, I to be honest, I won't comment much on it because a lot of these innovations that have been mentioned, they were not the Mercedes innovations. The thread actually cleared that out, so I won't really delve deeper into it. But there was one thing that actually stands out for me. To be honest, the one thing that really, it something that I'm not able to understand is that are we are we first of all, I should close this sharing thing. Okay, now it should close. Now, I think I have a question. Are we jumping the gun? Are we being too premature when it comes to making a judgment on these regulations? Quite a few fans have jumped and said that these regulations are a failure. Do you Is there merit to that? Is there any agreement to something like this? Now, if I give my view, I think 5 races into a season, it's a bit early. I think it's a bit early to make such claims, and I think we need to wait at least until the end of the 2023 F1 season. Now, yes, ultimately, when I talk about it, what I truly want to see is what kind of impact the Red Bull, the whole development penalty which they actually incurred because of breaching the cost cap, what kind of effect it has on Red Bull. If at the end of the 2023 season we see Red Bull still dominating, still holding this kind of advantage, then I think it makes sense to make some changes. Because at the end of the day, I think, let's be clear, what the aim of these regulations was to bring, to ultimately bunch up the field. Right now, the field is bunched up in phases. We have Red Bull at the front, then we have the three teams: Mercedes, Aston, and Ferrari, which is a second group. Then we have Alpine in the middle, which is which is neither here nor there. It is neither amongst the front runners, and it is neither among the midfield. Alpine is standing alone, and then we have the five teams at the back: McLaren, Haas, Alpha Tauri, Alfa Romeo, and Williams. The thing is, when you have such kind of structure, it's still a tier system, right? We had to ultimately end that tier system. If at the end of the 2023 season we have a similar scenario that we have right now, where Red Bull is clearly the favorite in every race, I think at that point in time intervention needs to be done, because you can't have a Red Bull domination. The reason being, if we have a 23 race or a 24 race season, and then you add around 6 to 8, whatever the number is, of sprint races, we are looking at around 34 races per season. If you have a singular driver that is going to win a chunk of it, it kills the entertainment factor. I mean, even though Stefano Domenicali can say whatever he wants to about the new fans not really being too perturbed by a single team domination, that is not true. Every fan of the sport is arguably looking at competition. If going into a race, you know which driver is going to win and which driver is going to finish second, it just shows that it's not really worth the effort. So yeah, that is something we need to keep in mind when it comes to the regulations thing. Now, uh, when it comes to this, I actually have a question in mind. Yeah. So first of all, answering Arif's question, should Monaco stay in the calendar? Um, I think it stays because of its prestige. If I have to be bluntly honest, Monaco is one race that we go to that particular track. We we basically endure the Sunday, because more or less the formation is not going to change, but whatever minimal changes there, we celebrate that and we go ahead with it. And that is just that is, at the end of the day, Monaco stands for that only. And yes, it is a bit disappointing and it is a bit frustrating as well, because you know how much qualifying matters. But again, I think a lot of races have been that way anyways this season. So yeah, that is something that is, I think, maybe not the best thing. But I mean, getting rid of Monaco. Look, the first Formula One race that I saw was the 2005 Monaco Grand Prix, where Kimi Raikkonen dominated. And for me, Monaco holds some sentimental value. So whether that helps or not, I mean, yeah, okay, I'd still keep it on the grid, keep it on the calendar. But again, who knows what happens next? So yeah, that is that. Yes, Merck is trying hard to change the like pit stops last year. Yeah, so yes, that is there. Yeah, so now going ahead from the regulations change to stop Red Bull, now the third topic that I actually wanted to talk about was, well, it was Nyck de Vries. And I think a discussion needs to be, there needs to be a discussion on this front, because I think what I have seen in the last week or 10 days is a split opinion when it comes to de Vries. On one side we have, there are Red Bull. Now, on one side, we have actually people that are criticizing Helmut Marko for jumping to conclusion after 5 races, and then on the other side, we have people that are fine with it. They actually feel that De Vries should have performed in the first 5 races, and since he's not done that, he does not warrant a seat at AlphaTauri. Now, if you ask me, I think in my view, I think I've made this view quite a few times. I never understood why Nyck de Vries was signed by Red Bull, because when I look at him, when I look at his junior record, when I look at his record before he joined Formula One, I don't see a future Red Bull driver. Now, whenever a driver is picked to drive for AlphaTauri, there's one thing that stands out more often than not, and that thing is that the driver is arguably ultimately going to drive for Red Bull in the future. You saw that even with Daniel Kvyat, who ultimately lost his seat. Carlos Sainz, he was a potential Red Bull driver. Ricciardo drove for Red Bull. John Eric Verne, he was supposed to drive for Red Bull in the future. Again, it didn't work out, but he had that potential, and his junior category results, if you take a look at it, you see how well he was doing. When you look at Nyck de Vries, you don't see these things. He's a 28-year-old driver, first of all. And again, there are many who would question why we are bringing age into it. But the thing is, age matters. And age is arguably one of the biggest reasons why Marco has jumped to a conclusion within just 5 races. De Vries was expected to actually be dominant against Yuki, and maybe potentially in future be a replacement for Sergio Perez. Now all those things have been swept by the wayside, and if I'm honest, I never saw that actually happening. One of the biggest reasons behind it was, well, when you look at De Vries' record, the junior category record is nice. It's good. He has almost won in every category. But the thing is, there are multiple years that he has spent in that particular category to actually win. And during that time, he has lost to drivers like Norris, Leclerc, Russell, Alex Albon, and most importantly, he won his F2 championship against Nicolas Latifi. Now, when you're winning a championship against Nicholas Latifi, does not speak much about how well or how good you've done. So again, that I I tend to hold that against him. Probably I'm being a bit harsh, but that is just the case. Now, even his Formula E championship. Now, I don't I don't know how well. Now, whatever I've seen with Formula E, the thing is haywire. The level of unpredictability that is there in Formula E, it's hard to judge whether a driver is good or bad, because the things are the variability is a bit too much, and it makes it a bit hard to make a true judgment of how good or how bad a driver is. And that is, that is where I tend to end up with. And that is why I feel De Vries was one driver. I think what I feel is what happened with Marco was he reached a point where he needed a driver that had to replace Pierre Gasly. And at that point in time, De Vries had done a pretty impressive race in Monza, and somehow enamored by the kind of success he had, Marco went for him. Now, because at 28 years old, you can't invest that kind of time with De Vries that you did with a Yuki Tsunoda. That is why Marco is looking for something else. That is why Marco is looking for possible options. Now, is it fair to De Vries? No, it's not. Within 5 races, if he is expected to perform at a particular level, then that is being unfair on him. You should not expect something like this. Having said that, there is one thing that needs to be very clear. That is just how Red Bull operates. Red Bull is looking at, okay, fine. If I have to make a final conclusion on this, Red Bull made a mistake. Not Red Bull. Helmut Marko made a mistake by picking Nyck de Vries. He should not have been picked in the first place. And if he was, he should be given his due. At least give him a season to prove himself. But the thing is, where Marco finds himself right now is he does not want to waste time on a driver that is not ultimately going to drive for Red Bull. Maybe that is something he should have kept in mind before De Vries was signed, but he didn't. So yeah, that is where he ends up ultimately. I mean, that is my strife with Marco is very simple. He should not have signed De Vries in the first place, and if he's done it, at least give him a season, which is not going to be honest. Let me be very blunt. I don't see De Vries making the end of the season, and in all likelihood, it's going to be Liam Lawson that is going to replace him. Now, how good is Liam Lawson? I've I have my doubts. Again, I have my doubts. Reason being, he was outscored by Logan Sargent just last season. People may say bad things about Margot, but he is excellent in his job and finds new. I agree with you, Arif. I mean, who can disagree with that? The thing is, he did make a mistake. No, at the end of the day, picking De Vries was a mistake, and now getting rid of him is again a mistake, because you can't. If you are picking a driver, you should let him at least perform, at least give him some time to perform or get used to the car. Now, I don't expect De Vries to be a Yuki Tsunoda beater, because Tsunoda is performing very well, but again, I expect him to be a solid Formula 1 driver. From De Vries, my expectation is he can be a solid midfield driver. That is what I expect him to be. But he was shoved into the limelight, and he was put in a position where he had to. Yes, exactly. And that is the thing. De Vries was put in a position where the expectations were far too much from a driver that has not shown the kind of potential. And he's 28 right now. It didn't really make any sense. So, yeah, I'm just not sure where Red Bull is right now. For me, the questions are there are far too many questions when it comes to Red Bull. The thing is, they have a secure driver in Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez is also going to stay there for a while. The thing is, Yuki Tsunoda is good. Is he capable enough to drive for Red Bull? Maybe. I think we have to wait on that. We have to give him a season or two to ultimately develop into that particular role. But the thing is, who is coming up next? Liam Lawson. I'm. I don't see a future Red Bull driver in Liam Lawson. But again, maybe I'm wrong. he might do well, but I don't see him being one of the standout talents of the Formula 2 grid. I didn't see the same thing with Yuri Vips. I don't see the same thing in any other Red Bull Junior in Formula 2 right now. So, yes, who they pick, I don't know. At the end of the day, Red Bull has found itself in this situation where they really don't have they really don't have options that can fit in these roles that they're trying to fit people in. But yeah, that is the kind of situation sometimes you end up in. The Daruwala shouldn't have. It wasn't in his. I think it wasn't in his control. The decision was taken by Red Bull. So yeah, according to RF, Daruwala shouldn't have left Red Bull. He shouldn't have. But again, I mean, being an Indian, he get, I hope he gets to Formula One. He will be the third driver after Naren Karthikeyan and Karun Chandhok. I don't think his future lies in Formula One. To be honest, I think most likely for Daruwala, he's going to the Mahindra team in Formula E, and I don't have high hopes for him there as well because he's fast. He's spectacularly fast. He has strong race pace as well. The one place where he lacks is racecraft, and in Formula E, all you need is guile and racecraft. If you don't have that, you're going to struggle. Felipe Massa struggled with that as well when he went to Formula E because I mean, after doing all more than a decade of racing in Formula One, you are not habitual to have too many cars banging wheels. But that's a normal Formula E race, and I don't hold that much of a. I'm not too optimistic about Jehan in Formula E. Yeah, Kush Main is doing a great job. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm slightly surprised because I followed Kush Mani's career, and the thing is, he's never stood out in such a manner. And according to Alex Jakes, when he mentions it on the commentary, what he feels is that sometimes there are drivers that are perfectly suited for the Formula 2 cars. And that is probably what is happening with Kush right now. Because, look, whatever I've seen, I've been very impressed. Most importantly, I didn't. The thing is, why it impresses me a lot is I did not expect him to perform this well, especially after what happened with Arjun Mani, his older brother. So yes, I mean, he's already scored a podium. He might score a few more. I mean, when it comes to racecraft, I think that is one difference between Daruwala and Kush. Uh, Kush Mani's racecraft is quite impressive, and his overtake on Arthur Leclerc was quite impressive in Australia as well. So yes, I mean he has impressed me a lot. I hope he does well in the future as well. But again, you know, for an Indian, it all comes down to which driver can make it to Formula One. And I had high hopes for Daruwala, to be honest, because he's won a few races and he seems like he's at the right age to enter Formula One. What happened with Narain Karthikeyan was he was 31. What happened with Karun was he was also a bit later. He was not able to make the perfect jump. Karun as well. In case of Jehan, that is a perfect age for him to make that jump. But again, he hasn't been able to make that jump properly. Now, I think when it comes to the Red Bull and the Nyck de Vries thing, that is all I have to say, to be honest. When it comes to him, in conclusion, if I have to make a statement, De Vries is, I think De Vries won't make the end of the season in my view. If if Lawson ends up winning a couple more races in the Super Formula Championship, I think it won't be a surprise if he gets the jump to Formula One, just like Gasly did when he replaced Daniel Kvyat as well. So yeah, that is where I stand on De Vries and his future in Formula One, especially with Alpha Tauri. Sorry. Now the final part. Now the final part was the kind of outrage we saw when there were these rumors of Mick Schumacher making of Mick Schumacher being in possible contention of a Williams seat for the 2024 season, especially since Logan Sargent has been crashing a lot. Now, the biggest thing that usually comes up from all this is, yeah, Arif, I agree with you. Now, the biggest thing that tends to come from all of this is, well, first of all, I agree. It is a bit unfair to say that Logan Sargent has not been doing well. The thing is, in terms of pace, he is an upgrade on Latifi. But the thing is, Latifi was too smart, too short a benchmark to ever overcome. So that is something that Sargent has been able to do. Again, Sargent has proven to be a bit crash prone, and that is what has led to these speculations. Secondly, at the same point in time, what stands out for Sargent was, well, his qualifying pace is something that is been very impressive in Formula 2 and in Formula 3. Now, not many people know that Sargent outqualified Piastri quite emphatically in Formula 3 when both are teammates. And that is something that has been there because the two drivers have been teammates even before that. But the thing is, even though he has strong qualifying pace, he has not been consistent enough even in the junior categories. It hurt him a bit in Formula 2 as well. And now, when he's reached Formula 1, with Albon performing at the kind of level that he's doing right now, it makes things tough for Logan to settle in easily. Because even though, let's be fair, just being 5 races into the season, into his rookie season, by the way, you don't expect him to start matching Alex Albon in any which way. Still, crashing a bit too much has been something that gets highlighted a bit more. So yeah, look, if it comes to it, I hope Williams does not jump the gun and go for replay and take a very early call. I think Williams should give at least a season to Logan because he deserves it. He's a rookie. He has a strong junior category record. It's not as good as Piastri's, but there aren't many drivers that have as good a record. But it is still a solid one. He can come good. He needs to get his head right. That is what he needs to do. However, at the same time, there is something that people also need to understand. And the thing is the relationship between Mercedes. Do you think Piastri made a blunder by choosing McLaren instead of Alpine? Okay, Arif, I'll get to it. I'll get to this question. Now, okay, I'm sorry. Coming back to this, sorry, I tend to look at the comments as well, just to keep an eye on who's there in the chat, and then come back and then keep a tab on what I was saying. Anyways, coming back to it, now the thing is, when I talk about Williams and Mercedes, first of all, they have a relationship that is known. Mercedes is not only a power unit supplier. They have a relationship that goes beyond that, and the relationship has been there since 2014. And Williams has seen some good years as well. 14, 15, 16 were pretty impressive. If Toto Wolff is able to pull a few strings and get Mick Schumacher in place of Logan Sargent, will Mick be an upgrade or will he be a downgrade? I don't think I can make a comment either ways, to be honest. Because on one side, if I take a look at the kind of record that Mick Schumacher has in junior categories, he was a Formula 3 champion, he was a Formula 2 champion, and both of them are not no flukes. There is clearly some talent that he has, and he has shown it even in his Formula 1 career. Although he should have impressed more and should have done much better, something that Hulkenberg has been exposing, to be honest, at Haas this season against Magnussen. The thing is, maybe when it comes to picking either of the two drivers, I'm not sure. I think both are on a similar level. If, yeah, if I agree with you, I don't think we have seen the full potential of Mick. I think one thing that maybe we all discount is the kind of toxic environment that was there in Haas in the last season. I mean, the comments that have been made by Gunther Steiner, I think, let's be fair, the whole book is the book from Gunther Steiner is basically he's milking every opportunity, every PR thing that he can gain from whatever was said about Mick to Mick in the last season. That is what Gunther is doing with his book. There are no two ways about it. He has milked every opportunity, every publicity or marketing he can gain for his book by basically making all the comments about Mick public. And when you think on those lines, one thing that usually shines out is the kind of toxic environment that was there at Haas. Because by the time Mick had his second crash in Monaco, I feel I feel Gunther had decided that he did not want to keep Mick. And even though Mick's performances improved, he had that very impressive race in Austria. I think Gunther was never looking to keep him beyond that. And finally, when he got Hulkenberg's signature, he got rid of Mick. So yes, all in all, the environment was not the most suited for a driver like Mick, who tends to bed himself into a team and then slowly, gradually gain pace. I think that is something we have seen in Formula 3 and Formula 2. He did not impress in Formula Three's first season. It was only in the second season in Formula 3 that he impressed, and he did it spectacularly. In Formula 2 as well, the first season was a bit iffy. It wasn't that impressive. Then in Formula 2, as the season progressed, he picked up the pace and became very competitive. Even in his Formula 1 career, it was only after 1.5 season that he had finally figured things out and was starting to perform. But then the environment was so toxic, he could not express himself as well as he should have, and that hurt him. So yes, maybe we've not seen the entire potential of Mick, and maybe he could do well. I think what we need to say is, let's wait. Let's see. At least let Logan complete his season. Let's see how good he is. Let's see how well he can evolve, because even he is very talented. Some of his races in Formula 2 are very impressive. His race win last season in Silverstone, where he dominated the entire field, is very, very impressive. So yes, give him entire season. If he's not able to improve, if he stays this crash prone even beyond the first five races, then yes, questions should be raised, and maybe ultimately Toto might be able to wiggle Mick Schumacher into that place. But again, if that happens, I don't think it's either an upgrade or a downgrade in any which way, and I think even Mick deserves that chance. I mean, if it was not for the Schumacher surname, maybe we would not even be debating this thing, because a Formula 2 driver, a Formula 2 champion, and an F3 champion, other than Mick, we have Oscar Piastri, George Russell, and Charles Leclerc. Out of these three drivers that are currently holding these kinds of accolades, all these three are elite talents on the grid. Mick, I don't think Mick belongs in that category, but he's still a solid driver. And if he gets a second chance, I don't think I'll mind. So yeah, these were the topics that I actually wanted to discuss today. Yes, I hope Arif I covered the questions you were asking. Okay, yes. Do you think Piastri made a blunder choosing McLaren instead of Alpine? I think he did. I've actually done a video on this as well. The video is and the video had both Alonso, and there is some evidence of not seeing like defending against. He did an excellent. Yes, I agree with you. Especially with Lewis in Austria, I think that was very impressive to see. Now coming back to your question on Piastri, I think in case of Piastri, he did make a blunder. The reason, one of the major reasons why I'm saying this is, first of all, McLaren is not winning a title any soon. And if that is the case, you really, really don't have to bank on a midfield team, especially when you're moving from another midfield team. It didn't really make any sense, if I'm being very honest. Secondly, why I feel he kind of made a blunder is, look, even right now, Oscar is less than a tenth away from Norris in qualifying. Just imagine what kind of performances he would have been able to put alongside Esteban Ocon. He could arguably have being he could arguably out qualifying he could have arguably been out qualifying Esteban Ocon right now in Alpine in the first five races. Imagine the kind of hype and the spotlight he would have on himself if he was beating a teammate who is a race winner in Formula 1. Just imagine what kind of, I mean, if you have that kind of opportunity, just take it with both hands. The thing is, when you're entering Formula 1, no, you have to keep one thing in place. You have to make the entire environment work for you. What Piastri has done right now is he has jumped into the deep end in a team that has already chucked out an Australian driver because he was not able to match up with Lando Norris. Now, Lando Norris is arguably one of the best drivers on the grid, and Piastri is measuring up against him. The thing is, why risk it? And that is where I ultimately come. That is where it ultimately comes down to for me. For me, the main thing is when you're debuting, when you're just entering Formula One, take things easy, and that is why I'm slightly surprised that even Mark Webber let this happen. Because why are you risking something like this? There's no upside to it. Even if you beat on, even the best case scenario is him beating Lando Norris, and if that happens, he would still have to make another step to go to any other top team. Top teams being either Red Bull, Ferrari, or Mercedes. However, there's a worst case scenario as well, and the worst case scenario is Norris beats him. And if Norris beats him, Piastri is left to do nothing. All the hype is killed, and I really don't see the point in him doing something like this. In my view, that is a blunder. To be honest, I really don't see the point in. I've never understood. The thing is, he's still doing reasonably well, and he might end up doing a bit better as the season progresses. But he could have had a much easier ride if he was an Alpine driver right now. First, he would have a better car. Second, he would have an easier teammate to contend with, and third, he would have a chance to be in the spotlight more often. Now he does not, because again, Norris is someone who has been in F1 for long, and he is one of the elite drivers on the grid. Just just something I find it hard to make sense of. So yeah, that's my view on that. Yes, so when it comes to the live stream, guys, that's about it. These are the four topics that I wanted to cover. My throat is gone. Apparently, I can't speak for more than 40 to 45 minutes by the looks of it. But yes, I had a lot of fun. Thank you, Arif, for joining in. Thank you for the regular comments on the chats. Yes, lastly, did you foresee Aston Martin? No, I saw them making improvements, but I had never expected them to be the second fastest car on the grid. No, no. I could not have seen this. I mean, I could have seen Aston Martin doing decently well, but this kind of jump is unexpected. And to be honest, I'm very happy. I'm very happy to see Fernando Alonso regularly fight for podiums, and I'm honestly surprised as well that he's able to do this well at this stage of his career. He's 41. Just, I mean, I'm 31, and I don't think I can do half the things that he can physically. But yes, I mean, that's the testament to the kind of dedication and effort that these guys put in. And obviously, they're also these genetic freaks. They're just born to do things like these, and you can, all you have to do is just tip your cap on some tip your cap to the kind of achievements that they're making. Yeah. So that's it, I guess. Arif, if you have anything else to ask. Okay. So thanks guys. There you go. This seems like a the previous live chat that we did, it was a bit more, it was haphazard, it was not planned. This one was a bit more planned, as in I had a couple of hours to at least think things through before I came and sat in front of you guys. It was fun. I hope your channel grows more. Only suggestion is I think you have some connection problem. Oh, there is some connection issue. I'll take a look. Thanks a lot, by the way. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, this was fun for me. I hope you guys had fun. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Please hit subscribe. Help the channel grow. Press the like button, and yeah, that's it from my side. Good night. Thank you. Thanks a lot.